Serious, autistic people of Reddit, what do you wish more people knew about autism? It's kind of hard depending where an autistic person is on the spectrum. So for example, if you encounter an autistic person that has problems with socializing, don't consider them as this antisocial person who wants to be left alone. Because they probably might want people to hang out with, they're just too shy when it comes to asking. #X200B, or at least, that's what happened to me. I fell asleep and woke up to a lot of notifications. I saw some questions which are people asking for advice. It's with deep regret of mine to say that I'm actually not very good at giving advice and I'm very worried about wording something out wrong. Basically, I'm bad at answering questions. Same here. I feel like I'm being creepy when I talk to people. Even commenting this is very awkward for me to do. How did you all find out you have autism? A lot of these random phobias and quirks being described here are things I experience and I'm kind of a loner, but also can on the flip side be outgoing, talkative and funny when in certain scenarios when I'm with friends and comfortable, and I feel like I'm really good at reading people's emotions and minor indicators in conversations. But I also have generalized anxiety disorder, very minor OCD, and am introverted. I mean, I heard my mom talking about it when I was young, and she's a behavioral therapist and used to work in a special needs school, so she knows about developmental disorders like autism. And then when I was about 14 I saw a little checklist online about symptoms, and I matched nearly all of them. The way you say you read people's emotions makes me inclined to err on the side of caution. From my experience, most autistic people have to actively learn how to read people, and even then it's like a tourist speaking broken English. To be fair though, a lot of women I know that are undiagnosed but definitely have it in every other area of their life seem hyperfocus on social interactions and emotional cues for their own particular train spotting. So you end up with people that are super aware of it, even if they might be terrible at incorporating that into their communication. True. From my experience of my family and a female friend of mine with autism, I haven't seen that in them, but obviously it's a spectrum and it affects people in different ways. I'm just sharing my experiences, and it's good to hear wider knowledge on the subject. Smile. Laughing at me when I'm expressing happiness instantly makes me unhappy. I wish more people understood how terrified I, and possibly others, are that it will bar us from jobs, opportunities and relationships, a normal life, because other people see us as lesser, as difficult, not worth managing, or as broken. I feel like things are often harder just because people view me that way. It perpetuates itself. I worry when I tell people I'm autistic on a date that they're gonna bounce because they then think they're doing the equivalent to dating a toddler. We recently realized that my husband is on the spectrum somewhere. We have not gotten an office diagnosis, but instead of making me feel like he was less, it was like shining a light on all his issues and suddenly everything clicked into place. I love him and understand where he is coming from so much better now. I wish we had realized before now. We have 2 kids and he is the most amazing dad. Having autism doesn't make you childlike, it makes you different. If everyone was the same, the world would be boring. I hope you find someone who loves you for all of who you are. Edit. Wow. This blew up. I will try to respond to everyone as soon as possible. It is quite late here and I am nodding off. I'm pretty sure one of my coworkers is on the spectrum, and he brings skills to the team that none of the rest of us can. The way his mind works differently makes him a huge asset. We're 99.9% sure my little brother has autism, but neither he nor my parents ever cared enough to get him officially diagnosed. He's a very analytical, clever kid with such a sharp, dark sense humor. No one else can make me wheeze laugh as much as he used to. Edit. Update. Texted my brother today, found out he loves BoJack Horseman too. We talked about that in tea. I told him I loved him. He said K. He'll be sending him BoJack memes from now on. Today was a nice day. Used to? We don't really talk much now as adults, except at birthdays, holidays. He's an awkward, private guy, so it's hard to start up conversation with him casually. As kids we were best buds. Okay, at least he's still with us. I was sad cause it sounded like he'd passed for a second. Oh gods, no, I'm sorry it sounded that way. But don't worry, Therese, no way it ever let death take my little brother before me, it'd fight that bastard till the bitter end. We have feelings, we have empathy. You don't look autistic is not a compliment. Telling us everyone is a little autistic doesn't help. Oh my god, thank you. I've been trying to express this and I didn't know how to put it into words. Autistic kids grow into autistic adults. Just because we get better at not showing out autism doesn't mean we've grown out of it, as many people think. It just means we've been forced to hide part of ourselves to fit in, and oftentimes it comes at the cost of being able to fulfill all of our needs, or hell, even just being ourselves. Edit, I don't want to do the typical thing and be like thanks for karma. So I figure I ought to share some helpful resources. The Aspergian is a really great website written by Aspies and other neurodivergent folk for Aspies and other types of ness. They have a lot of stuff relating to issues dealt with when you're on the spectrum as an adult in regards to symptoms, interaction, relationships, etc., and they also promote autistic artists as well. And Special Books by Special Kids is a really good channel with interviews with people of all abilities, including things like autism, ADHD, etc., as well as physical stuff too. It's a pretty great way to learn more about other people and how they want to be treated, as well as how they live their lives. A lot of people with autism show no outward signs of it. One of your friends, coworkers, etc. could be autistic and yet never notice anything strange about them. Maybe they're a bit shy or awkward in certain settings, in my case group conversations, but nothing major. For those people, autism isn't necessarily a disability. As such, there would be no reason to treat them any differently than others even when you do find out they are on the spectrum. As a general rule of thumb, don't assume anything about an autistic person. Find out what they're like and respond appropriately. Don't assume they have the same strength struggles as your autistic nephew or an autistic celebrity or whatever. Edit, I should probably clarify that I am only speaking for a specific group within the community here, people who don't want or need special treatment, be it from friends or people with authority, just because they have autism. As an autistic person, that's how I feel. But there are also a lot of people with autism who depend on special treatment and could survive without it, especially people with low-functioning autism. It's a very broad spectrum. I never meant to imply that autism as a whole is not a disability. Personally, I think low-functioning autism should be its own separate disorder with its own name, because it would avoid this kind of confusion, but that's a whole other discussion. Autism Speaks are the PETA of autism. And they spread a lot of lies about autism because those lies create fear and that fear earns them money. #X200B, edit, while my first gold. Thank you. Thanks for all the awards. Also my favorite video explaining why Autism Speaks sucks. https://am.youtube.com. Watch. Vase 936 R2F35 at 185s. Autism Speaks should be forced to rename itself We Speak Over Autistic People. 99% of representations are absolute bullshit. If you really want to know how to deal with an autistic person, ask the autistic person. It's so easy. And preferably ask 50 of us because the symptoms can wildly differ from a person to another, too. I once heard if you've met one autistic person, then you met one autistic person. I think that summarizes that perfectly. None of us are the same. That's what makes it a spectrum. None of us are the same. That's what makes it a spectrum. I want to highlight this. Because unrelatedly, a lot of people think spectrum means, like, a gradient that goes from a little autistic to extremely autistic by adding additional signs and symptoms in order. But that's not how an actual spectrum works. Green isn't more or less on the spectrum of visible light than red, it's an entirely different quality. A mix of all the different wavelengths involved is going to give you an entirely different color than someone else gets. Something I wish my teachers knew when I was growing up, me avoiding eye contact doesn't mean I did whatever they accused me of, nor does it mean I don't feel sorry, and it's certainly not meant to be disrespectful. It's just that I don't do well with eye contact. Also, I know my social skills aren't the best, and I do try to work on them. But not telling me when I do something wrong and thinking the mere fact you're upset with me should lead me to realize what I did wrong and how to do it better instead of just telling me isn't ducking helping. I've accidentally made my boss really insecure of his hands because I tend to watch hands instead of eye contact. Haha. He stops waving them around and puts them behind his back and is like, wait, no, stop looking, it's my sleeves, isn't it? We don't look autistic. And telling us that is not a compliment. Facts. Can't even count how many times I've heard this. It is genetic, not vaccination based. It's so disgusting for anti-vaxxers to act like autism is worse than dying by polio. Honestly. This has always bothered me. Like, you'd really rather have your kid contract some terrible ailment and then wind up dying than have an autistic kid? Really?